The honourable member for Sherwood Park.
Mr. Speaker, it is my great pleasure and honour as the MLA for Sherwood Park to respond to the throne speech. Thank you to the people of Sherwood Park for the trust that they placed in me last year when I became their MLA. In the throne speech, the Lieutenant Governor stated, "We are currently over-dependent on a single price and a single market. Alberta will address this in a number of ways. First, we will diversify our energy markets. Second, we will pursue a coherent and effective economic development strategy, and we will invest in a greener, more sustainable economy." This is great news for my riding of Sherwood Park, which is home to many employed in the upstream, downstream, and midstream oil and gas industries. We already have industries that have been engaged in exploring diversification and value-added production, and who have taken big steps to reduce gas emission and use energy more efficiently. The Alberta Petroleum Diversification Program, the review of the royalty system, the proposed investment in small and medium-sized businesses are all great news for my riding. Bill 1, Promoting Job Creation and Diversification Act, introduced right after the throne speech, will provide the tools that are needed to support industries, small businesses, and Albertans in my riding. The throne speech commitment to helping Alberta families who are facing immediate financial hardship and the implementation of the Alberta Child Benefit Plan will help low-income families in my riding and support those families whose breadwinners have lost their job due to the price of oil. Mr. Speaker, Sherwood Park is the urban hamlet of Strathcona County, a specialized municipality which I share with the MLAs for Strathcona, Sherwood Park, and Fort Saskatchewan, Vagreville. I was also happy to discover that Nellie McClung was the MLA for what is now Sherwood Park, and I understand that the MLA for Edmonton McClurg has already claimed her. I am pleased also to note that I followed 4 other female MLAs when I was first elected, including the Honorary Iris Evans that many of you know. Strathcona County includes the urban area of Sherwood Park and the large rural areas with 8 hamlets. I am sometimes asked about Sherwood Park's status as a hamlet. In Alberta, the term hamlet describes urban centres because of the way they are governed, not because of their population or geographical size. If an urban centre is governed by the county in which it is located, then it's deemed to be a hamlet. On January 1, 1996, the province granted Strathcona County the designation of a specialized municipality, and this is what it is known as. Mr. Speaker, Sherwood Park is actually the creation of a developer's vision in the 1950s to build a community to serve the new petrochemical industries in the county. Today, it is its largest hamlet. The developer's perhaps thinking of the area's forested background combined Sherwood with Park to name the new development Sherwood Park. By the end of 1956, Sherwood Park had 30 families and has continued to grow. In 1961, it had 2,900 persons, with a total number of residents in Strathcona County of 12,000, which meant that the rural area had 3 times as many residents as the urban area. However, in 2015, out of a total of 95,500 residents, 2/3, or 69,000, live in Sherwood Park, and 1/3 in the rural areas. So as you can imagine, Sherwood Park has grown a lot in the last little while. So there are many special things in Sherwood Park. It is home to Festival Place, a 500-seat theatre, which I hope many of you have gone to see a show. And this theatre accommodates world-class performers, community theatres, musical recitals, and trains young people in the circus arts each summer. Each summer, a favorite of the residents, including myself, is the weekly summer patio series, an outdoor concert featuring local and international performers. And Maria Dunn will be performing at Festival Place in April. It is also home to the Strathcona County Library. However, it is a place that I have less time to visit these days. The library has wonderful pieces of art, including murals by artist Alex Janvier. This year, the library board has decided to provide free library memberships for all residents, making the library even more resident-friendly than it has been. The Strathcona County Art Gallery, called Art 501, opened and unveiled its first exhibition to the public in 2011. The Art Gallery offers art education programs to children, teens, adults, families, groups, and schools. Currently, the Art Gallery is showing photographs by Ethan Russells, photographs of important musicians, actors, and other celebrities. And I'm hoping that many of you here today will have the opportunity to go and visit this exhibit. I am fortunate in my office to have on loan 2 paintings from the artist collection of the Art Gallery. The Strathcona County Museum has done an incredible job of preserving the history of the county and its pioneer families, offering rotating special exhibit and educational programs. I'm especially pleased that the museum offers an ongoing special exhibit highlighting the Indigenous heritage in this area of Alberta, which also includes a mural by Aaron Paquette. Unlike Edmonton, which has many community leagues, Sherwood Park only has one, the Gilmore Park Community League, headed by Tammy Greetinus. The Common Ground Community Cafe, run by volunteers and featuring fair trade coffee, local artists, and space for community conversation, is now becoming the community's gathering place. Kudos to Eileen and Ian Edwards, who spearheaded this initiative. I am particularly delighted to see more and more ethnic and culturally diverse families moving to Sherwood Park. While door knocking, I began to see that a change was happening in the park, and the development of a mosque confirms that, like other communities in Alberta, Sherwood Park is a welcoming community for new and old Albertans. Sherwood Park is home to a high percentage of families with school-aged children. As a former hockey and soccer mom myself, I appreciate the important volunteer work that parents and other adults do to ensure that children can be involved in team sports. We are fortunate in Sherwood Park with generous corporate sponsorship of our sporting facilities and youth teams. Mayor Insurance sponsorship of youth sporting teams is well worth noting. Millennium Place, in part funded by local industries, is a large complex of ice arenas, which is sometimes the home of the practice session by visiting NHL teams, youth lounge and pickle and badminton courts, a running track, fitness equipment, competition-length swimming pool, and my favorite, a spin cycle studio. Under the leadership of Mayor Roxanne Carr, Council is currently exploring options to ensure that there are more affordable housing options in the park. Seniors in particular are concerned about their ability to stay in Sherwood Park. I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate the Mayor on this initiative and look forward to working with her and Council. Now, the riding of Sherwood Park contains a number of important industrial areas. One of the oldest Canadian refineries is located at the border between my riding and that of Capilano. This refinery, the Imperial Esso refinery, is the only refinery in Canada that includes a manufacturing plant. It produces oil for the retail market that is packaged on site. This refinery, with its pipelines terminals, rail car terminals, storage facilities, and other gas and oil-related industries in the Strathcona industrial area, provides for many employment in my riding in Edmonton. As midstream industries, they have not been as affected by the downturn in the price of oil. While the industrial heartland area is now located in Sherwood Park, its activities are integrated in many of my riding's businesses. Located in the riding is also Alta Steel, a steel recycling plant which uses discarded steel to make bars and rods. It was one of the biggest thrills, I think, so far in my career as an MLA when I went to this plant and in protective clothing watched the high-intensity furnace melt the old steel. I wanted to thank the intervention of our government, which allowed this company and others throughout Canada to successfully defend a Canadian International Trade Tribunal ruling that China, Korea, and Turkey were dumping steel, therefore preserving the local jobs in my riding and in other ridings. Many of the residents in the riding are interested in renewable energy projects. 2 schools are exploring and installing solar panels. These projects have been spearheaded by teachers who view these projects as a way to engage their students in climate change activities and to equip them with the tools for employment in renewable energy industries. So, Mr. Speaker, my path to this Legislative Assembly is probably not that different from many of those who were elected on May the 5th, as we represent the most diverse set of MLAs ever elected. My first influence was as the daughter of a French Jew who, as a young man, deserted the French Air Force after the Vichy Agreement and made his way to England to fight in the Free French Air Force and the famous Lorraine Air Squadron. My family's Jewish roots and the courage of the many who resisted, risked their lives to help others so they could be safe has been at the core of my own work in human rights and social justice. I also have to thank my father for the second major influence in my life. When I was 9, we left France for New York City as my father had joined the United Nations Secretariat. Growing up, I attended the UN International School, where I was exposed to cultures, languages, and ideas from around the world. I also spent a number of years living in England and Thailand before obtaining the International Baccalaureate and graduating from the UN International School. The highlight was receiving my high school diploma in the General Assembly from the then Secretary General of the United Nations, U Thant. I then went on to attend McGill University in Montreal, as this offered me the possibility of living in France while pursuing my studies in English, of living in French while pursuing my studies in English. I have to be grateful to the then Prime Minister of Canada, Pierre Trudeau, for the armistice program that granted draft dodgers and students like me permanent resident status. J'ai ensuite travaillé avec des jeunes francophones pour les aider à conserver leur langue et leur culture en Colombie-Britannique. Cette expérience me fait un ardent défendeur de nos communautés francophones. Je comprends leurs besoins d'écoles francophones et l'importance des programmes qui favorisent le maintien de la langue et de la culture. Je suis fière de faire partie d'un gouvernement qui reconnaît le fait francophone, d'un caucus composé de 15 francophones et francophiles et de pouvoir parler en français dans l'Assemblée. I want to thank my colleague from Athabasca, Sturgeon Redwater, for reminding the Assembly of the Piquet affair. I am thankful to Leo Piquet for his leadership in allowing me to speak French today. Moving to British Columbia, I work with Francophone youth, helping them to maintain their language and culture. This experience has made me a strong advocate for Francophone communities in Alberta, understanding their need for Francophone schools and the importance of culture, importance of programs that encourage the retention of language and culture. And I am proud to belong to this government that recognizes the Francophone presence in Alberta. The government's support for the resettlement of Syrian refugees is one I can well identify with, as I worked in the early 1980s helping match refugees from Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam with sponsors in Canada and initiating programs in refugee camps throughout Southeast Asia. In Sherwood Park, there are at least 5 different refugee sponsoring groups. One of them, the Ecumenical Refugee Group, under the leadership of Marion Butler and Stephen London, have sponsored a family of 15, including a disabled adult. My third major influence in the path towards becoming a member of this Legislative Assembly is my marriage to an Albertan. Since my husband had followed me to Thailand in the late 80s, where we worked with leprosy patients and sustainable farming practices, I thought it was only fair for me to follow him back to Alberta. While we lived in Thailand, we adopted 2 boys from a government orphanage. Our sons were brought up in a household where Thai, French, and Canadian cultures were intermingled. I am proud of their success, one as a teacher in an elementary school in China, and the other is as a finance manager for a car dealership. So I have lived in some of the world's biggest cities, but I have also been fortunate to also work and live in and for rural communities, such as the county of Newell in southern Alberta. This is important for me as the MLA for Sherwood Park, because while my riding is in the urban part of Strathcona County, it is really difficult to separate urban issues from rural issues in this municipality, or I think throughout Alberta. As I look back on a career and a path to this Legislative Assembly, I could not have chosen a better time in the history of Alberta. As an ecologist, I am part of a government that has drafted a forward-thinking climate change strategy. As someone who has worked towards eliminating discrimination, we have amended the human rights legislation to include transgendered individuals. As an advocate for those living in poverty and fair employment practices, we have increased minimum wage and given farm and ranch workers the same coverage as other workers. As a Francophone, I am delighted by the efforts of our government is making to support language and culture retention. As the MLA for Sherwood Park, I am proud of the work our government is doing to ensure diversification of our petrochemical industries and the focus on job creation.
Under 29-2A, Honourable Member for Bonnyville-Cobbley.
Please, Member, I would love to hear more.
Go ahead, Honourable Member.
I'm not sure if the honourable member would like to hear about some of my adventures as I lived in other countries. But if you are, maybe the Assembly might be interested in one of the things that I have done that probably was the most moving thing in my life. In 1980, I was sent to Cambodia, Kampuchea at the time, and it was just after the fall of Pol Pot. The organization I worked with, we were one of the first aid organizations in this country. And I remember that the first time I was there was just before Christmas. And the country was devastated. There barely was running water in the place that we stayed. There was no food. It was a very, very difficult situation. There was garbage all over Phnom Penh. And I think that this experience and spending Christmas in this country has moved me profoundly to always think about what happens in our country that have been subjected to war, discrimination, and hatred. It's very hard for me to describe the experience that I lived when I went to see the tombs, the devastations, the people around that had no limb because they had stepped on mines, the devastated hospitals, just the beauty that had been Cambodia, totally destroyed by war and hatred. And like many of people who now visit Cambodia and go to Phnom Penh, I went to the museum where there was pictures of all the people that had died in that thing. So the other experience you might be interested in, if you want to hear about my experience overseas, is in 1997, around the same theme. I went to Bosnia, Herzegovina, to be an observer for the Canadian government in their election. And again, I was in a country that was devastated by war. I was a European. You cannot imagine what it's like to be in Europe that looks like World War II, because things had been bombed, farmyards had been burned, and people had died. People had been murdered. There was graves everywhere. And here I was as an international observer, having to watch because the countryside was totally mined. And when I was there, we were shot at. And I don't know if anybody has been shot at in a country at war, and knowing that people hate you so much because we happened to be in a car with Serbian plates, even though I was part of a international observing mission. And there we were, and it was in the night, and people shot at us because they didn't want any Muslims there. And again, this experience has stayed with me, to know how much hatred is causing division, is destroying economy. Can you imagine this country, just like Cambodia, the economy of this country had been totally destroyed? Anyway, those are just two of the incidents in my life that I think have made me as passionate, and why I'm so happy to be part of this government that has those issues at the core of who we are. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I would like to congratulate and thank the member from Sherwood Park for her maiden speech. I would like to thank the member for not only the work she is doing in her constituency, but for the work she is doing in other constituencies in our beautiful province. Because of her knowledge and passion for cooperatives, the member recently joined myself at a cooperative meeting held in Red Deer. Also because of the member's fluency in French, she has very graciously accepted an invitation to help with the 2019 Canada Winter Games to be held in Red Deer. Madam Speaker, I would like to ask the member from Sherwood Park how she feels her fluency in French has been or could be an asset to Albertans. Thank you.
Honourable member for Sherwood Park.
Madam Speaker, I think the fluency in another language is an asset for whoever. And because I've had the opportunity, the pleasure, and the experience of being exposed to an environment where everybody spoke more than one language, and the importance also of retaining your mother tongue, I am a promoter of anyone speaking another language, and programs in our school, either be French immersion, Spanish, Cantonese, Mandarin, Ukrainian, the opportunity for young people to speak another language and to be proud of their cultural heritage.